Hello.
Hello, hello, hello.
Hello.
Hey, David, how are you?
I'm good, man.
Good. It's good to have you on here.
Is it cold there or what?
Right now I'm in Mexico, so it's not too cold.
Mexico.
Yeah, I'm in Mexico, and my friend Davey that's here with me, he's in Detroit, in Michigan, in the U.S.
And it is cold here.
Yeah, but you've not got the clothes for cold.
Oh yeah, I got.
You've had.
Yeah, it's a little chilly. It's been rainy these past few days here.
All right.
Yeah,
What part of Mexico?
Now I'm in Mexico City.
Oh, I've been there. Oh yeah.
Yeah, I love Mexico City. Lots of history.
Yeah.
So
where are you at?
Isle of Wight, just off the south coast of England, about 4 miles off, really, half an hour in a ferry.
Nice to meet you, David. We're huge fans.
Yeah, it's really cool for me. It's really cool for me to have you on here. So yeah, I know you just you wrote a new book, Perception of a Renegade Mind.
Yeah.
I haven't got the chance to read it yet. I've been traveling around a lot, so I was hoping you could just give us a little introduction about your book and tell us what it's about. We saw it got good reviews on Amazon.
Amazing,
really?
Amazing reviews.
I just write them, and then I think about the next one.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what can we expect from this book? Can you tell us about it?
Yeah, well, it's called Perceptions of a Renegade Mind. The renegade mind, the way I define it, is the kind of mind that's necessary at this time, to say the least. It's not just a mind that critically thinks and sees through the lies and the bullshit, but then it refuses to cooperate with the bullshit. And, you can critically think and you can see, I can see what's going on. But then you can be intimidated into not doing anything about it. And, they say knowledge is power, but it's not. The use of knowledge is power. If you don't use knowledge, then you might as well not have it. We're at a point now where we have to en masse start to stop cooperating with all this. Otherwise, it's going to reach its goal.
What's the goal?
Yeah. What do you think their end game is on this?
Oh, the end game is massive. I mean, there's a whole spectrum of the end game, an enormous number of dots to connect, and they do. The end game of the fake vaccines that don't fulfill the criteria of a vaccine are to take out enormous numbers of people over the next few years. With this synthetic genetic material that is self-replicating, so it impacts on the body more all the time, and to transform the genetics of the rest from what we have seen up to this point, the biological human, to a far more synthetic biological human, which is designed to be part of this massive operation that's unfolding called the smart grid. Being being fronted up. That's all he's doing, really. By people like Elon Musk putting all these satellites up in low orbit to fire 5G and other cloud radiation at every inch of the Earth. Ultimately, that's why they're doing it. And the idea is that humans are connected to this cloud. I mean, people like Ray Kurzweil at Google, this so-called futurist, who has he says an 80% record of predicting the future. But I mean, if you know what the future's planned to be, and no one intervenes to stop it, then predicting the future becomes pretty straightforward, especially when you know what the future is supposed to be.
Right. When you're setting the stage for it.
Yeah. So he's talking about by 2030, the human brain will be connected to artificial intelligence.
Yeah, and for sure.
As he says, once that starts, AI will do more and more of human thinking until human thinking is basically negligible. So all these things like the jab and the AI agenda and the depopulation agenda too, they all connect. I mean, if you want to create a new human, you want rid of the old human. And this is why we're seeing sperm counts plummeting catastrophically around the world, not least in the West. I mean, when I was a kid, the whole idea of fertility clinics and stuff.
Right.
Never heard of them in the 50s and the 60s when I was growing up. But now it's an industry, it's a global industry, because the fertility is falling. And it's no accident that those doctors and scientists with a bit of backbone who've spoken out about these jabs and taken the consequences of it, some of them have said it's the one area that they're very concerned about is the impact of these jabs on fertility. So that kind of fits in with this whole agenda. And then you've got the other area, which is that this human 2.0, shall we say, the new human, is not meant ultimately to procreate.
Right.
It's supposed to be procreated technologically.
Oh, that's going to happen for sure.
Yeah, and if you go back to Brave New World and Aldous Huxley, 1932, he's describing this, the end of parenthood, because the state will bring up children that are technologically procreated.
And that's the whole reason that they're trying to destroy the family, the ideology of the families.
Exactly. You know what's happening in America now with this Merrick Garland Attorney General attack on parents who just want to stop their kids being indoctrinated and psychologically rewired by wearing masks in schools. This is all part of it. I mean, I've been following this particular story since way back, and that's how the state is taking more and more children from their parents under spurious reasons. I just did a video for a rally, an event in Denmark on this very subject for a group that has been formed and is campaigning because the Denmark government has said they want to take 50,000 children from their parents. I mean, and you know, on the face of it, you know, if you hear that cold, it's bizarre. Why would they do that? But when you connect the dots and you see where this is going, it makes absolute sense.
And we've done it with indigenous communities forever too. Took their kids to indoctrinate them. So it's not like we don't have any. It's not like there's a blank slate. There is a history to how we do this type of indoctrination. But just before we get too far, I just want to what is the benefit of depopulation? What do they? Is it just for a smaller population? It's easier to control.
Well, easier to control, yes.
Yeah.
And also, they want a different kind of human. And,
right.
Not all humans are going to be able to make this transition from the human 1.0 to human 2.0.
But don't you feel like that's kind of a natural stage of our evolution? Like, because I mean, from like an objective perspective, human beings are sort of naturally technological beings. Wouldn't you say that? Evolution is sort of works as a way to ensure the survival of the species, working in the environment. So wouldn't like AI and us becoming a sort of technological / biological creature be the next step in our natural evolution?
Well, how can being connected to an unnatural thought become be
unnatural?
No, the point being that there is a force at work that is making this happen. It is nothing to do with evolution. It's to do with actually taking us to a point where we don't even have a mind of our own to think. Now, there are enormous numbers of people in the world now who have, and going back through history, come to that, who have conceded their right to thought by just putting their hands up and doing it.
Yeah.
But we're talking in this next stage that is planned, where AI will do your thinking. You won't even have the ability to think because it will be thinking for you.
We're the robot, right? Like we become the robot.
Up to this point, they've had to, up to this point, they've had to manipulate information, to manipulate perception. So the perception of the people leads to the behavior of the people that suits this whole agenda. But the next stage is they don't even have to manipulate information anymore, as they're doing now, of course, in this stage with the
because they can just give it to you.
Nominal censorship that's going on. But they are going into a stage, if we allow them, that they won't even have to manipulate information because our perceptions will come direct. No manipulation necessary.
It'll just be beamed into our awareness.
Yeah, it will be our awareness. I mean, it will think for us. And, I've been writing for a very long time about this whole plan for a hive mind. And if you have AI, which is centrally controlled, and it is connected to the human brain, we're not talking tomorrow, but we're not talking a century from now.
Yeah, it's coming quick. Do you think there will be competing governments trying to hack, like, for example, we can talk about this a little bit if you want to, but I'm under the impression that the governments of the world are competing with each other, and, they all want control of the world. So, like, if America is the one that initiates this AI onto people, do you think, like, China, for example, will have another system that's trying to hack ours, so they ultimately get to control? You think there will be competing sort of AI wars that will come out of
one
this?
world order?
Well, it depends what level you're looking at.
Yeah.
In the end, that which ultimately controls China is that which ultimately controls the United States.
So do you think there is a source under that?
I've got to finish. You come down the levels, and you'll meet levels that are competing or think they're competing, but actually this other level is orchestrating all of it, because the plan is for an end to countries. You see, what they're doing at the moment is destroying the United States very blatantly.
Very blatantly.
If you don't have borders, you don't have a country. So they're seeking to destroy America very blatantly, but it's happening everywhere. And if you look at their plan over the years, it is to destroy countries. George Soros has a global organization called the Open Society Foundations. What it should be called, given the enormous amounts of money funds into these groups that are doing this, is the Open Borders Foundation, because the idea is that there are no countries, because the plan is for a world body, a world government dictating to everybody on the planet, and therefore there would be administrative units, but they wouldn't be countries and nations as we know them now.
Right.
This whole competition between nations is being phased out anyway for this world centrally controlled fascist state, which will centrally dictate and control this smart grid. So, as I was saying, if you can control AI from a central point, and that AI is connected to the human brain, dictating human perception, you literally create a hive mind where people all think the same and all act the same. And if you look at this whole COVID era, countries compete, right? Well, on some levels they do, at least on the face of it. Well, they've not competed for how to respond to this, have they? Mm-hmm. They've done what the World Health Organization basically centrally directed. Because, what's the chances of something happening, whatever it is, and virtually every country in the world responding in the same way? Yeah, it's obviously centrally coordinated. And, I've been writing for years about this global cult, as I call it, that's behind this. Forget borders and countries. They're for public consumption. There are no borders. This cult is as much in control of America as it's in control of China. The Mao Revolution in China was orchestrated by this cult for a specific reason, which is now playing out. And that is, they wanted a closed country that did not have to pay any lip service to democracy, freedom, or public opinion, which they could use to rapidly develop a system, not least through technology, of mass human control. And the idea was then, once that had been perfected and incubated, to play it out across the world. So we've had this so-called virus coming out of China. And what has happened in the West as a result of the last 18 months? It's become more and more like China in terms of control. And indeed, the Chinese reaction, the Chinese government reaction to, quote, COVID, which was supported very early on, this is the way to do it, by the World Health Organization, run by a complete crook, or officially headed by a complete crook called Tedros, who was appointed by Gates and worked for Gates organizations, funded organizations before he became Director General of the World Health Organization. They were pushing this, the China way, which was draconian lockdown and people being taken from their homes and all this stuff. This is the way to deal with this, quote, pandemic, which they declared and changed the definition of pandemic. So it became a pandemic when it otherwise wouldn't have done.
Right.
Right.
And as a result of that, the rest of the world followed the Chinese response. That's where it came from. You know, like I say, at one level of the pyramid, you can have competition between America and China. But at this level of the pyramid, China and America are actually it's
probably super compartmentalized so that the people that are competing don't even realize that there's another layer.
100%. That's how the whole thing works. Because the more people who know how the game works, the greater chance it is that it's going to come out. And I've talked to some people over the years who've been in the British cabinet, the cabinet of the government, and you have a chat with them, and they genuinely have no idea what's going on, not a clue, and they think they're making decisions and they're random.
Oh, no.
And actually, it's all part of a global plan, and they are making decisions to support the global plan. And many of them without even realizing there is one. The ignorance in politics of what's going on is shocking.
It's like they're brainwashed. I like that you said pyramid too, because it really is like the all-seeing eye at the top, like the shadow government.
Yeah.
And we were talking about this before you got on, David. You know about all these conspiracies. Like I know most of my conspiracies from reading about you when I was younger. Where do you get all this stuff? Like, where do you find out about stuff? Is it just from like are you just thinking about this and putting dots together?
Well, it's a long story. It goes back to 1990 when some very what we would call paranormal things happened to me, but they're not paranormal at all. They're perfectly normal. It's just within the myopia of human society. We think they're paranormal because we think normal is insanity. So these things happened to me, and my life suddenly became, as a result of this, a synchronistic journey from 1991 onwards, in which I was just walking into information. I would meet people, I would come across documents, I would read certain books that dropped in my lap, and so on and so forth. It's like some force has been handing me puzzle pieces, and in an order, often, mostly in an order that makes them easiest to understand where they go. And when I used to do jigsaw puzzles a very long time ago, I always started out wanting to find all the straight bits and make the frame first. And symbolically, in terms of this work, that's understanding how a few can control the world. Because when you first hear that, you think that's impossible. There's too many people. But when you see how they do it, it's very, very possible. Anyway, and then you put more pieces in the puzzle as you come across. And as you know, when you're doing a jigsaw puzzle, the more pieces that go into place, the easier the later ones are, because you can see what's appearing. And there's fewer pieces to put in there anyway. And so it's gone on like that over 30 years. And
wow.
As they say, the pudding is in the eating and all that stuff. The question was, okay, you put these things together and you say this is the plan, but okay, so is it? And that is something that can only be shown with the passage of events and the passage of time. And 30 years later, it's pretty obvious that there is what I've been talking about, a plan which is unfolding for the centralized fascist nature of global society. And all the different things that are happening, they're all been in my books for decades, these things that are unfolding. I mean, every day I'm going through what's going on in the world and taking something that over here, which seems to have nothing to do with over here, something else is happening that day, but they absolutely connect. For instance, we have a bit of a controversy over in Britain, whereby we have what you call freeways, we have motorways. And what the motorways have always had, because of sheer basic common sense, is the left-hand lane has been an emergency lane, a non-running lane.
Right.
One where when you break down and this traffic passenger, you know what the freeways are like in America, like in Los Angeles stuff, a passenger at great speed, you've got somewhere to escape to when you break down. Well, what they've been doing in Britain is taking that emergency lane out, making a running lane. And what's been happening is people have been breaking down and bang, a truck or something's come in the back and it's killed a lot of people and injured a lot of people. Now, on the face of it, that has nothing to do with electric cars, Elon Musk again, but it does.
So
because these motorways are being changed and transformed for is the driverless vehicle.
Absolutely.
And the reason we're going through this transition, that's what it is, of driving electrical cars, is it's a stepping stone on the way to driverless cars, because driverless cars obviously have to be electric and all the computer systems, etc. And you can't really have a driverless car that's got a petrol engine. Yeah. And then you take that and you put it into the whole
absolute control. No.
And you reach a point where with the driverless cars, which are planned through the transition of electric drive cars, the computer will decide where you can go and where you can't.
No.
Yeah, how fast
never be able to escape anymore.
Well, you know, in Europe, the turn of 2022, speed limiters are by law have to be on all new cars. And these are all transitions to the driverless car. I mean, now you get in a petrol engine car, you can drive where you choose overwhelmingly. But you'll find great chunks of the world and the country are going to be denied you in a driverless car because the computer won't take it.
Can't go up that road. Yeah, that's a dirt road you're not allowed up.
Yeah,
we were talking about this before. And I think it was like 1998 or something. My parents, everyone got free computers, right? They put the computer in everyone's house. And I wonder, are they going to do that with electric car? Because everyone will accept a free electric car. You know what I mean? To some extent, free.
Well, you see, because this agenda is long planned and global and centrally globally dictated, it plays out through apparently unconnected organizations, which at the if you go deep enough in the rabbit hole of all of them, they're actually all controlled by the same force.
Jesus, David.
So you have this plan for electric cars, and what happens, and it's been not justified, but apparently justified by this human-caused climate change hoax, which has demonized the gas of life with the carbon dioxide, without which we'd all be dead. And suddenly, what you're seeing now is not just Tesla and Elon Musk, this cult frontman. It's Ford, and it's all these other car companies are bringing out electric cars at the same point, and they're talking about by 2040 there'll be no cars made that aren't electric. So and then you've got the laws against petrol cars and diesel cars, and of course what we're seeing is a transition in terms of fuel from petrol and diesel access to the electrical access in filling stations, gas stations. And as this moves on, if you've got a petrol car, you're going to find it more and more difficult to find a place to get fuel. We've at the moment had this in Britain, this fuel crisis, all manufactured. where people have not been able to get fuel.
Yikes.
With various things the government has done, but now hides from. And so people have been lining up, for hours sometimes to try and get fuel from a gas station. And the government's come out and said, which created it, and said, oh, well, this just shows it's a good lesson that we have to get rid of fossil fuels and go to electric cars. So the whole thing is coordinated, and it's being generated, being promoted, this whole climate hoax by people in the woke mentality who are utterly clueless about the world and the forces directing the world, to the point where they are demanding changes in society justified by what they claim are environmental requirements, needs. And they also perceive themselves to be anti-system and fighting the system to get justice for the planet, when what they're demanding is everything that this cult wants. This is why you got Klaus Schwab at the World Economic Forum and Bill Gates, who've been pushing the COVID hoax. At the same time, they have produced books saying we need to use the COVID hoax, in my words, to change the world, to save the planet.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that. Those documents are very easily available.
So this is the whole point, that the COVID hoax and the climate hoax are actually different,
so crazy.
Masks again on the same face, which is why the same characters are pushing both. Because if you look at the solutions to these apparent claimed problems, they're all the same. There's centralization of power and control of the fine detail of people's lives. Because they're, so now they're more and more talking about the fact that we need climate lockdowns.
Yeah.
Right. So they're fundamentally connected. So and all the dots connect between
this
them.
Cult of people, is this, do you believe it's a lineage that traces back from that has just always sort of been in control? Or is it a new group of people, like the billionaires that are the tech people?
Well, that's an interesting question, because when I started to realize in the 1990s that the world was not controlled by the people we saw on public display, and I started to realize this was part of putting this the straight pieces, in the jigsaw puzzle. How do they do it? And I realized actually that you've mentioned the word before. There is a fiercely compartmentalized network in which the vast majority of people who are every day playing their part in pushing the world in this centralized fascist direction, or Orwellian direction, have no idea what the force is that's actually driving it. They have no idea. They just get told what to do and they do it. And then they tell the people below them what to do and they do it. This is how it's all done. Without knowledge of why they're doing it and how what they're contributing to do it connects with other people in other areas of the world and other areas of the economy who are also contributing to push the world in this direction. And they don't know how it all fits together either. They just do their job and go home. And so when I saw that this network existed and how it worked, the question was, when did it start? And you start to go back to find the starting point. And it goes right back into the mists of history. But you can pick it up in Babylon. You can pick it up in ancient Egypt. You can chart it through the Roman Empire. Because everywhere this cult has headquartered itself, there's been an empire. And then it moved up and massively centered itself in London. And that's when we had the British Empire. And then through those European empires, massively the British Empire, but others too, the French and the German and the Dutch and the Belgian. This cult went global. This is how it went global. The colonial era was driven by this cult going global. And so people would say, yeah, but the colonial era ended. Well, yes, it did on the face of it, but not really.
No, not really.
There's two forms of control. One really, unless you do it the way they want to do it through artificial intelligence, where you don't have the capacity to see what's going on anyway once that starts. But there's over control and that's colonial rule. The people know who's controlling them. Maybe not from the shadows, but they know the forces that are directly controlling them. They're the colonial powers. And it may take a long time, but there's there'll be a rebellion against that eventually. Hopefully. But the covert control, where you think you see your rulers, but you don't really, is much more powerful because people don't rebel against what they don't know exists. So at the end of the colonial era, after the cult had gone global, I mean, really global, especially like I say, the British Empire to Australia and New Zealand and Africa, South America, Central America, the United States as it became, Canada, everywhere. They apparently rolled back the colonial rule, but they didn't. What they did is they left out in those countries various families and the network, the secret society networks that have gone on controlling those countries ever since, only covertly. So the people think, oh yeah, we can vote now. I mean, look at South Africa. We had this big push to get rid of apartheid, because apartheid was a white minority rule and basically a one-party state. That's what it was. And then they had a transition to another one-party state called the African National Congress. And we've got this bizarre situation in South Africa whereby whoever is voted by the African National Congress as its leader automatically becomes the president of South Africa, because South Africa is a one-party state. And again, the people they vote in that way for the ANC in the largest numbers, election after election. Okay, that's their choice. Well, have a look around a bit more, I would say. But what it means is, if you are elected head of the ANC, you stand for president as head of the ANC at an election, and you're going to get in every time. So it's not actually the people of South Africa that are choosing the president of South Africa. It's the inner core of the ANC, and these manipulations in the different countries mean that this cult is dictating the leaders, and it's dictating not only who wins but who opposes. So they control the game. You know, in Britain, we've got this moronic man called Boris Johnson, who's been prime minister.
He looks like a cartoon character.
Oh, a complete moron, this guy. But a very sinister one, actually. He plays the fool, but he's a very dark man.
Oh, that's Bush style.
Now, the opposition leader in Britain is a guy called Keir Starmer, the leader of the Labour Party, what's left of it. And not only have the Labour Party, through this whole COVID era, not opposed the fascism imposed by the Johnson government, they've said the fascism doesn't go far enough. So at any election in Britain now, and it's the same in almost every other country, the people voting have no choice.
Right.
There's no one to represent them. So the cult is running the show, and it's fusing country after country into one-party states as a stepping stone to the one-party world, which will be centrally controlled world government, which won't even in the end be elected. It will be a technocracy of appointed bureaucrats, scientists, technicians, etc.
Like it is kind of already, right? In a sense.
That's a good point. That's exactly where we've gone. Because if you look at Silicon Valley is run by technocrats.
Yep. Absolutely.
Now, Silicon Valley's got more power than the American government now.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
it's like the Vatican
is already appearing. And what is Bill Gates? He's a technocrat.
Yeah.
The Antichrist.
What is Fauci?
Yeah. Depopulation,
exactly.
Everything. He has no business talking about that. But do you think at the root of this, at the source of all this, do you believe that it's a cult? Or do you think it's just about human power? Because I had this opportunity. I was just living in Peru for 6 months, and I got to live with these ayahuasca shamans, and they were making me do these ceremonies all the time. And it really changed my perception of the way, like, I believe that there are dimensional realities that we can tune into and gain access and power to these things. And I've heard other conspiracy people speak about this and say, like, maybe they are using different plants and occult methods to tune into these realities to gain powers and things like that. Do you think any of that is really going on, or do you think it's all about sort of just like the natural human urge to claim power over people?
Oh no, it's it is I mean, when people say to me, why would they do it? Well, I say to them, why does the psychopath do what they do?
Wow, I never thought of it like that.
Why does the psychopath serial kill? Yeah. Well, because he's a freaking psychopath. That's why he does it. And these people are psychopaths. They are super psychopaths. But even, you know, I mean, you look at someone like Gates. He may be super rich, but he's still a gopher. You look at someone like Soros. He may be super rich, but he's still a gopher. Yeah. You look at the Silicon Valley people. They may be rich, but they're still gophers. That all these different people and organizations are ultimately controlled by a force you don't see. And what they just very quickly happens is when you front up various aspects of this cult agenda, you can become very, very rich, like Gates, like Soros, but it comes with a rider. And the rider is that great chunks of your wealth have to be channeled back into funding agendas that are part of this whole cult agenda. So, Soros makes enormous amounts of money, which is very easy to do when you know the stock market's going up and going down, because the people who you are making it go up and down. It's very easy to become very, very wealthy. But that comes with a rider. So he has to fund this great swathe of organizations worldwide through the Open Society Foundations to as part of the deal. But so they're gophers. All these people are gophers to that which is in the shadows. But then you say, well, like I said earlier, you see this has passed through history, and people have been born, played a part, died, more born, next generation, played their part, died. And when I looked at this a long, long time ago, back in the 90s, I thought there has to be a coordinating force that spans this period, that's actually orchestrating all of this, like an organizational field, if you like. And then I started looking at ancient accounts and ancient legends, which will bring me into what you said about ayahuasca, because I did that in the Brazilian rainforest in 2003, and I had most extraordinary experience. And you find common themes. Not just common themes between ancient cultures, but common themes between religions and ancient cultures that are not overtly religious in the bricks and mortar religion way. So the common theme, there were many, but this is one of them, that there is a negative force that is manipulating human society from the hidden. That is a common theme, staggeringly. And they call this hidden force different names in different cultures and different religions. And so people don't tend to look at the common themes. They look at the names, or they say this God, they say these gods, they say these gods. Don't look at how they describe them. Yeah. And let's see if there's any common themes here. And there are. So if you look at Christianity, it talks about the devil, Satan. It talks about demons. Then you look at the Gnostics that are not the same type of Christianity, in fact, very different in many ways, that have left documents over the years, like a phenomenal treasure trove of them found in an earthen jar in Nag Hammadi, 75, 80 miles north of Luxor in Egypt in 1945. And a fifth of those writings, which are quite considerable, talk about a negative force manipulating human society from the hidden, which they call Yaldabaoth, which is their version of the devil Satan, and Archons, which is a Greek name for rulers, which are their version of the demons. And then you look at other religions and cultures. And the same theme is there, like the Islamic culture. They talk about the jinn manipulating from the hidden. I was in a New York taxi being taken from New York airport into the city one time when I was researching this whole Gnostic archons thing. And the guy, he was a Muslim taxi driver, and he said to me, well, you know, what are you doing? I was having a chat, and he said, what are you doing now? I said, well, I'm working on this. And I talked about the Gnostic version of the archons and what they said about them. And he said, well, that's the jinn, right? So yeah. These things come together. And then I came across a Native American version of it called Wetiko. And Wetiko is described as a mind virus, which is a negative force manipulating human society through human perception.
And you know, interesting, in Tibet, they have the same idea that there are these sort of demonic entities that possess you in the form of your desires or your attachments. It's kind of like the same thing. It's like this little, it's a possession in the form of a craving.
Yeah, well, yeah. And so I looked at all this and I saw the common themes in it. And as my kind of research and stuff developed, it was clear that, you know, you can talk about humans' behavior, you can talk about extraterrestrial behavior, but in the end, the behavior comes from consciousness. It comes from perception. My perception of life will get me to behave in a certain way. Bill Gates's perception of life will get him to behave in a very different way. Wow. This extraterrestrial will be benevolent to humans. This extraterrestrial will be malevolent to humans because of their perception. So in the end, it all comes down to consciousness. Now, how about we're looking in terms of the malevolence at the same consciousness that it's called Wetiko and demons or archons, whatever, same consciousness. And it's a low vibrational consciousness that operates within the frequency band of what I call low vibrational emotion. Fear is its major state. Anxiety, hatred, conflict, anything like that. These low vibrational emotional states, depression. And because it's operating in this frequency band, I'll call it Wetiko to pick out a name. So that's what I call it in Perceptions of a Renegade Mind. For it to influence you, you have to fall to its frequency band. So because this is the driving force, this is the controlling force of your Gateses and your Faucis and your Klaus Schwabs and all these people, Rothschilds, Rockefellers, and what have you, who have been used to construct society as it is. The idea has been to construct a society, and the shamans around the world talk about this, that generates maximum fear, maximum anxiety, maximum depression, and maximally pulls people's consciousness into these low vibrational states, because at that point, an attachment can take place. If you are full of love and joy, then you are operating at a higher frequency, and Wetiko can't get you.
Yeah.
Can't get you.
Wow. Yeah.
You get pulled into these low frequency vibrational states.
They're dependent vibrational states like depression, anger. They're all dependent on something. Love is when you're really in love, when you're in love with just life itself, it's not dependent on anything. You see everything through that lens. So it's harder to fall into a pattern of depression or hate because you're seeing through a lens of compassion and through acceptance rather than something that's dependent on something, which would be like able to attach to you.
Exactly. So now you look at human society, especially they've upped the ante in the COVID era. Oh, yeah. And it's all based on and this is one of the things that's coming. They are going to throw everything at us. They're going to throw energy shortages, food shortages. They're going to throw internet outages, etc. They're going to do everything they can to put us in a state of fear and anxiety because they want to pull us into these low frequency states. So, for instance, I have this concept of Wetiko fighting Wetiko. And there's loads of examples of this. I call it the Wetiko circuit. You are acting in a way that expresses Wetiko, for instance, in a fascist, psychopathic way. And you respond to that psychopathic, fascist imposition with anger, with hatred, with violence. That's Wetiko fighting Wetiko. If we're going to break this circuit, then we've got to come at this from a completely different angle and stay calm and not fall into hatred and not fall into fighting the enemy. What you fight, you become. I've been saying that for decades because it's very, very obvious. I mean, I remember talking to a police officer in London who policed the demonstrations a few decades ago between the far right would have a march and the far left would have a march opposing the far right march. And this police officer said to me, he said, if they weren't carrying banners, I wouldn't know which was which.
Oh my God.
What you fight, you become. And the way out of this is the power of no. You don't have to scream no. You don't have to hit someone and say no. You just have to say no and mean it. No, I'm not doing it. I'm not cooperating with my own enslavement. Because if you go up this pyramid to the inner core of the cult, certainly in the human world, you're looking at a handful of people compared with the global population. A handful, you probably get them in one room. And yet, that few are dictating human society. And this is how they do it. It's very simple. And this is why the power of no is how we break the circuit. At the top of the pyramid, globally, although it happens in every country as well, because every country has its subsidiary networks of the global cult, and their job is to impose the will of the globally centralized agenda in their particular country. This is why in the COVID era, all these countries have reacted the same, centrally coordinated. So at the top of the pyramid, you've got these few, you probably, like I say, get them in a single room, and they decide where they want to take the world. And they impose that agenda on the level below them, which will still be a level of the cult in awareness of the cult. And they will impose that will upon the level below them. The first level acquiesces to the few and imposes on the next level, which acquiesces to that and imposes on the next level. Now, pretty soon after you come down this pyramid, you're meeting levels of that global hierarchy and the national hierarchy. You have no idea there is a cult. There is a group of people in a room. But the same process continues. It's imposition of that level on that level, the acquisition of that level to that level, and the imposition of that level on that level. And so it goes on. Imposition, acquiescence, imposition, acquiescence. And then you come to the mass of the population, symbolically the bottom of the pyramid. And if we complete the circuit by acquiescing to that level of the pyramid imposing on us, like governments and law enforcement, then we complete a circuit between those few people in that room and the entirety of the global population, but simply through levels that perceive themselves to be below the level above, acquiescing. And if at some point anywhere in that pyramid, it might as well be us, it's only going to be us really, says, no, I'm not doing that. No. I'm not doing that. No, we're not doing that. That circuit is broken. Because, you look at 8 billion people getting on for anyway. And then you look at the numbers, take the inner core of the cult, take the further out level of the cult that know less, but know a lot. And then take all the law enforcement and all the military in the world that are overwhelmingly clueless who their real masters are, who impose the will of their masters without knowing that they think their master's the bloody president, a bloody joke. And you add all those together, and it's still a tiny fraction of the 8 billion. And if you look through human history, not least because of what we've been talking about, the the continuation of the same basic process through history. I mean, it's changed in its emphasis and it's changed in its way of selling it, but it's been basically the same process. The many, no matter what culture it is, it doesn't matter what religion it is, it doesn't matter what era it is, the many give their power to the few, who, as a result, impose their will on the few, or on the many. That's happened all the way through human history. And all that's happened in the COVID era is it's become more obvious as things have got more and more extreme, but that's been the process all along. There's no way that Genghis Khan or Joseph Stalin or any of these people could have done what they did without the acquiescence of the people. No way Hitler and the Nazis could have done it without the acquiescence of the people. Acquiescence in two ways. One, supporting them because they bought the lie, and two, intimidation into obedience because they fear the consequences of not being obedient. If you look at the population of China today, I mean, it's unbelievable, massive.
Yeah, it's huge.
If that said no in any kind of unison to these prats in the government, in the communist government, we'd see actually all along has had no power.
Yeah.
Because you can send your military out, okay, but hold on a minute. Have you seen the military compared with the population?
It's not even close.
No way. So what they do is they divide and rule the population. They intimidate the population because they have to divide and rule.
Divide and conquer.
Otherwise, any form of unity, and it's over.
Yeah. Wow.
This is why you've got BLM, funded by the billionaires, funded by the cult.
And it's brilliant because on the surface, it's a beautiful message. You know, historically, Black people in the U.S. have felt, disconnected and disrepresented. And then they say, well, Black Lives Matter. You get everyone to agree with it.
Yeah, it's easy to agree with that. Like, of course.
Because of course. Yeah, exactly. But
that's the psychological trick.
Exactly. Yeah, it's a psychological war.
It's all psychological. It's all psychological.
And then George Soros runs it.
Yeah, exactly. When there's billions of people and you're a few, until you get AI connected to them and they become a hive mind,
oh God,
you have got to manipulate their perception, and you've got to divide and rule them. So they're fighting among themselves, and they're therefore not aware of you.
Fighting you.
Because you cannot physically control 8 billion people. You can't physically control 330 million plus all those we don't know about in America, because there's not enough of you. So you have to control their perception, which dictates their behavior to suit your agenda.
Populate them.
Yeah, that's another way of doing it. So they have created Black Lives Matter. Use this phrase that no one can argue with, Black Lives Matter, but you know it's a scam. You know the goal it claims to have is not true. When all lives matter becomes a racist statement. Yeah, you know it's a scam then.
Yeah.
And so all this money's been put in to create racial division. And if you look at the black on black crime in America not least through gangs like in Chicago, and you look at all these the things that have happened in terms of Black people and Black communities. Well, BLM is not really addressing those in any way, shape, or form. It's not what's best for Black people at all. It's how do we use Black people in this divide and rule agenda, which you quite rightly say again is massively funded by Soros. And this is a very, very important area because, and it's something I bang on about all the time. Where are you focusing your self-identity? Because your ultimate self-identity, not your current experience, your ultimate self-identity. Because what the cult wants you to do is to self-identify with the labels of a human life.
Yeah.
So it wants you to say, I'm Black, I'm white, I'm this religion, I'm this race, I'm this income bracket, I'm this sexuality now. They want you to identify your experience as a human, which is very, very brief.
Which is an easy hijackable part of who we are because of our tribal past.
Because what they want, this goes back to your multidimensional angle to all this. What they want is to isolate human perception in the five senses overwhelmingly. And the five senses are that level of our consciousness, awareness, that directly interacts with this reality, which is only a very tiny, ridiculously tiny band of frequency. Because what they don't want is for your human mind, your experiential human mind, to be influenced by the expanded levels of consciousness that are also you. They want to disconnect you from them.
Yeah.
Because once you expand your awareness out of the five senses, you start to see how things fit together. You start to see through the lies because you are tapping into a level of your conscious manipulation. It's like a battle's going on in the valley.
Yeah.
And that expanded level of consciousness, you're on the hill and you're seeing out what the hell's going on from that perspective. Whereas the five senses are only in the valley fighting the next person that comes up to them. So if you look at the way society is structured, it's all about the five senses, and it's all about focusing people on the five senses and not letting them see that they're actually much greater than that.
Yeah, it's sort of like extracting people's power and casting this linguistic hallucination in the form of culture over them. So they take on this identity, and then through that given identity, they're powerless. You don't know who you are if you're forced with these identities. So ultimately, we need a spiritual realization. We need a spiritual revolution to go inward, and so that we can realize that these temporary cultural identities aren't us. They're just these sort of just thoughts. They're thoughts that we overly identify with that keep us in these lower vibrational states that you were talking about, that make things easily more like attachable to us. Because if you know who you are, you know who you are. You don't need anything because you know who you are. But if you don't know who you are, then it's very easy to be manipulated.
Yeah, if you look at it from cradle to grave, we're told who we are.
Exactly.
That's what happened.
And our parents were told who they were, and our grandparents were told who they were.
This is who you are. This is who you are. This is what success is, and all these things.
Right.
Now, I was born in England, so I'm called English, but I don't self-identify the I, the true I, the ultimate I, with being English. That's my experience. I'm consciousness, and my consciousness at the end of this cycle of the body as a cycle, we have eternity, will leave and carry on experiencing forever. This is just a brief experience called human. And what is human? It is simply the way the body decoding system, the five sense decoding system massively decodes information. That's what makes us human. Why is an elephant an elephant? Why does an elephant act like an elephant and a duck act like a duck? Because their biological computers, as I call them, their bodies and their decoding systems decode information and reality in a certain way.
Yeah,
which is
their operating system.
an operating system. And so what we call human is an operating system that decodes information in a certain way, thus leads to a certain perception and behavior we call human. But when the consciousness leaves the body, it's not human, it's consciousness.
Which is accessible through things like ayahuasca.
Absolutely.
Well, exactly, because what does ayahuasca do? It overrides the decoding systems of the body. And if you look at the five senses, they decode everything as apart from everything else. So what the five senses can only decode a particular band of frequency. And that frequency relates to what we call form, actually holographic form, but what we call physical form. So you see people, and you see buildings, and you see objects, and you see empty space between them. That's the way the five senses decode reality. And that's all right. It gives us an experience of that. But what it means is that the five senses alone can't connect dots, because all they can see is dots, and the dots apart from all the other dots.
Right.
When you go into expanded states of awareness beyond the five senses, and anyone could do it, it's only a choice, then you start to see the unity of everything. So you start to realize that there is no empty space. It's energy consciousness, but on a frequency level that the five senses can't decode. So it appears to the five senses there is empty space. It's actually a field of consciousness, a field of possibility and probability that we're interacting with. And what possibilities and probabilities we connect with and pull into an experience is decided by our perceptions. Now, this cult, which is hoarding all this knowledge and making sure the public overwhelmingly don't get it, knows this. So it knows that if it can control your perception, and therefore your frequency, because what perceptions are frequencies, like emotions and thoughts are frequencies, it will dictate the frequency band with which you interact with this field of possibility and probability in a feedback loop. So, for instance, if you've got a perception that you're little me and have no power, and nothing ever happens to you because you're just got no power, you've got nothing to give.
Whole universe was random, anyways.
That's your perception. So that's the frequency you're operating on. That's the frequency with which you are interacting with the field of possibility and probability. So you will manifest as an experience what is in that band of frequency, and that band of frequency relates to your perceptual frequency. So unless you change this, I'm little me, I have no power, you will go on living in little me, I have no power life, not because it's necessary, but because you believe it is. This is how your belief becomes your experience. And if you look at the way that the real deep manipulation goes, it's to manipulate perception, because they know that will actually manifest as behavior. Nice. So the more you can convince the target population that they are powerless, the more they will manifest powerlessness from their belief in their powerlessness. It's a feedback loop, and so they know, and this is the bottom line of the whole cult manipulation. They have to control perception, and then they control the world, because perception becomes behavior, and collective behavior, collective perception, is what we call human society.
Yeah, that becomes our reality.
Do you think they're in contact with these shamanic realms? Like, do you think they're like somewhere doing these rituals and contacting some kind of intelligence that's like these ayahuasca intelligences, or, you know, like these spaces that the shamans speak about when they say, like, yes, there are beings here that give us knowledge. There's beings here that will do negative things for us. Do you think these guys are into that kind of stuff?
Yeah, well, big time. I mean, I've written about this at great length in the books over the years. Satanism and pedophilia, which is another.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, yeah.
Oh, no. Adrenochrome
is absolutely central to this cult.
And do you think this is the same kind of stuff that was going on here, like with the Aztecs and the Mayans, where they would do the
same stuff? Same stuff. You know, funnily enough, is it? I think it's Perceptions of the Renegade Mind. I actually talk about that.
Wow.
Yeah, I do. I do. It's perceptions about why throughout history have people,
and there's psychedelic cultures also.
Yeah. Why throughout history have these peoples of different kinds acted in such monumentally evil ways? Because once you attach massively to Wetiko, you become Wetiko.
Yeah, you bring it into this realm.
An incredibly distorted, chaotic, inverted state of consciousness. So this is why Satanism is an expression of Wetiko. This is why they invert everything. For instance, they invert the cross. They invert the pentagram.
Interesting. Is that why Hitler inverted the swastika?
Yeah, they're all
turning good things into bad.
Inverting life. If you look at the word evil, it's the word live written backwards, right. and it is an inversion of life. This is why they're obsessed with death. It's why the Satanists do so many of their rituals in places of death. A world war, like the Second World War, the First World War, massive upheaval and suffering is a collective ritual to them. It's a collective death ritual. The wars are death rituals for Wetiko. And because
are they feeding him, you think? Is it like an energetic exchange for this real being that's giving them something?
Well, this is another point. Interesting question. Because of the distortion, the inversion, the chaotic nature of this Wetiko consciousness, which is why it expresses itself as it does, it cannot connect in to the energy sources, the energy sustenances that balanced, harmonious consciousness can. So it has to create a source of energy, empowerment, energetic empowerment that is operating within the frequency band that it is. So through that connection, it can vampire that energy and absorb that energy. So if you are in a state of love and joy and all these high vibrational states, that energy cannot be absorbed by Wetiko because it's way off its frequency band.
Yeah.
It never the twain shall meet.
Yeah.
So what it's done, which is really symbolized in the Matrix movies by the Morpheus character holding up the battery and saying the machines have turned us into one of these. You know, and you see in the Matrix movie, you have the symbolism of the machines getting their energy from the energy given off by babies, etc. Whenever we think, whenever we feel, we're generating a frequency that relates to what we're giving off, our emotions, our thoughts. And therefore, we are generating collectively, 8 billion people, enormous amounts of energy, second by second by second. And to empower itself, Wetiko has to manipulate, not least through its expressions, your Gateses and all these.
Oh, it's like that Monsters Inc. movie. Remember that cartoon where they're scaring all those little kids?
I've actually used that example, mate, in the books over the years and in the talks.
Really?
Because I watched that movie because I'd already, by that time, realized that this force was feeding off human energy, particularly human emotion, actually. And I watched that and I went, oh, bloody hell. Especially when the lead character was a green monster with one eye.
Right. All-seeing guy.
Hello.
It's right in your face.
That was so symbolic. It was a Disney movie, of course, which you won't be surprised.
Of course. Right.
Where the monsters, people haven't seen it. They live in a monster world. This is this other dimension.
Right.
And they have no source of energy, right? So the power station, I know you know this, I'm saying this for people that may not have seen it because it was quite a time ago now. The power station in the monster world has no power. So because they have no power source. So what they do is they walk through these symbolic doors in the power station. And on the other side of the door, the other side of the dimension, they enter the bedrooms of children and they frighten them because they're monsters.
Creepy.
And they catch the fear in a kind of a receptacle, and they take it back to empower the monster world. Now, and you're absolutely right. When I watched that, I thought, this is ridiculous symbolism if you know what's actually happening. And this is what they're doing. So again, we come back to what I was talking about earlier. The more that they can manipulate human perception and human emotion into fear, into anxiety, into depression, into all these low vibrational emotions, the more energy we're generating to empower them, which is another reason when I talked about that, that circuit, that Wetiko fighting Wetiko. When Wetiko fights Wetiko, one's fascist, one's anti-fascist, you're both generating energy to empower Wetiko. This is why, we've got to come from an open heart level of reaction to this, and a calm level, so that we can bring this down without empowering that which we're trying to challenge. And there is no need to get into a state of violence, into a state of hatred, because all you're doing is empowering that which you want to undermine. And to bring it down, you just immovably say no and don't cooperate with it. And then it can't operate. And also, if you're coming from a sense of self-identity that the I is consciousness, infinite awareness on an infinite journey of experiencing all possibility forever, then you put the human experience into context. It's a brief human experience, and for all of us, it's going to end at some point. And who wants to stay here forever, right? When there's forever to explore. And therefore, for instance, I concluded 30 years ago when this thing started happening to me, I thought, I realized then that we were consciousness and eternal. And I thought, well, I don't know where this is going, but I'm going to go with it, because the worst thing that can happen is that I just bugger up a human life, a human experience. I mean, okay, I can deal with that. So I kind of went for it. And if you perceive the human life to be it, to either be it and all there is, or you are going to be judged by some judgmental God at the end of it, then you put yourself in a perceptual prison, not least in the sense that you fear death. You fear death. Now, if you fear death, you are going to try to extend your life as much as you can. And if you think that doing what you know to be right might lead to your life being curtailed, for instance, then you're very, very likely not to do what you know to be right. You're going to be intimidated by those that threaten you. If you do this, we'll kill you. And my reaction to that is, well, bloody kill me then, because I'm still not doing it.
Right.
Because I'm infinite awareness.
You ever been worried about that? You ever thought they were going to come through before?
No, never. Because there are other forces at work, actually. If you connect with them, that mean they can't do that anyway.
Right.
That's beautiful.
This is the fantastic thing. Once you open up to higher levels of consciousness, and anyone could do it, like I say, it's a choice, then you tap in to levels of awareness that make sure you're okay.
Something I find really interesting. Sorry to cut you off.
Go on. Go
ahead. Something I find really interesting, like, for example, in yoga or in meditation, there is what they call the Kundalini experience, where this symbolic, energetic serpent goes up your spine and transforms you into, gives you some kind of realization or some kind of psychic clarity that you aren't able to see in your normal state of awareness. I find the same thing in ayahuasca ceremonies. The ayahuasqueros and the shamanic traditions talk about this vision of a serpent comes to you, it eats you, and then you are now entered the world of knowledge. And I find this a very interesting to what you used to talk about with the reptilian stuff. Do you find any connection with the Kundalini, the ayahuasca serpent, or just the symbolism that's undeniably found everywhere in connection with, spiritual traditions. Do you find that there's any relationship to that?
Well, again, I come back to consciousness. When people talk about reptilian, it's an outer form.
Yeah.
Consciousness decides how it behaves and what it is. All reptilians, they're horrible. Well, some of them are, but a lot of them won't be. You know what I mean?
Wow. Okay.
It's seeing that your state of consciousness. I mean, look at humans. That humans are operating through the same form, and their range of behavior is absolutely fantastic because their range of perception is fantastic. On one level, anyway. But that's interesting. You should say that because I had a Kundalini experience. That's what threw me into this.
Wow.
Just very quickly, I'll tell you the story very quickly. In 1989, when I was still working as a sports presenter for the BBC, and I was a national spokesman for the British Green Party, I felt that when I was in a room alone, I wasn't alone. There was some force there, and I'd never come across it before. And this went on through 1989. It got more and more tangible until in the March of 1990. A series of things happened to me, and I ended up with this visiting this psychic. And I visited the psychic. I'd never seen a psychic before, because I wanted to see if she would pick up what the heck I was feeling around me. Because through 1989 and into 1990, this presence when I was alone in a room that I wasn't alone was getting more and more powerful. So anyway, I go along to see this psychic. I don't tell her any of this stuff. And she picks up this communication. And when I saw her, I'm a national spokesman for the Green Party, and I'm a sports presenter for the BBC. I'm just getting on with my life. And she said that this consciousness that she was connecting with, and I knew there was consciousness in the room because, or some other force in the room because of other things that happened in the room before this. She picked this up, and she said, "They're telling me that you're going to go out on a world stage and reveal great secrets."
Wow.
That one man cannot change the world, but one man can communicate the message that can change the world, and that from now on you're going to be led to knowledge, and at other times knowledge will be put directly into your mind. And that's when this sequence started with, all the puzzle pieces straight afterwards. I mean, no
Did you ever go back and speak with her?
It started immediately. So again?
Did you ever go back and speak with her? Like, and now in retrospect that your life is sort of.
No, she's no longer with us now. She died a few years ago, and I only saw her about 3 or 4 times in that very short period. And so through 1990, I was going on this strange sequence. And what happened is very soon after I saw her, the BBC ended my contract. Now, I was the youngest person in the sports department as a presenter by a mile. I should have had a long career. And, I had many letters of commendation for my work. So there was no reason to not renew my contract. But they did. And again, these things happen, you see. And by doing that, and because I lived like I do now, a very, low-level lifestyle, I don't live a big house lifestyle or anything like that. I had some money that allowed me to get through 1990 without working. I mean,
to do your real work,
but it did, and it meant that I could give this full time.
That's awesome.
Attention, and I ended up in 1991, the turn of 1991, in the weeks before. You mentioned it already. Peru started coming into my awareness. And like I'd walk down the road, I'd look in a travel agent and I'd see a poster for holidays in Peru. I'd turn on the television and there'd be a program about Peru. And, I've never really thought about Peru before. So anyway, long story short, I get on a plane to Peru, not knowing why I'm going, just this urge, I need to go to Peru. And I go to Peru and I go around Peru. I've found this this native guide, and we went around various places, Machu Picchu, etc. And I had some extraordinary experiences. And we ended up at this place called Cuzco, right on the Lake Titicaca. And he booked us into this hotel called the Siustani Hotel. I've been back there since, it's still there. And I saw that this Siustani was named after an Inca site, quite a short distance away, not close, but a short distance away. And there were pictures of this Inca site all over this hotel for obvious reasons. And I'm looking at one of the pictures this night. I'm only staying there one night or 2 nights. And it kind of spoke to me. It said, come to me, you know, come to me. You need to come to me. And I have this feeling, I've got to go here, I've got to go here, I've got to go here. So the next day, because it was out season, I had to hire this kind of bus taxi thing to take us out there. And I went out, and it was a beautiful place. There was a hill, and there was a lake, and there was distant mountains and stuff. And I walked around it, and all these Inca remains, and it was beautiful. But when I went back to the bus about an hour later, at the bus taxi thing, I was disappointed because the urge I had to go there was not matched by the experience, lovely as it was. So I got back in the bus, and I'm a bit disappointed. And I've got the bus, the driver, the guide driver, and I've got the guide who's with me, just the 3 of us. So I'm sitting like this, looking out the window as we drive away from Siustani, daydreaming. I daydream all the time, daydream my way through school completely, and I saw this hill, and I'm looking at it, and all I can hear in my mind is "Come to me, come to me, come to me, come to me." So I said to the driver, "Can you just stop a minute? I want to go up that hill." And so I walk up the hill. I said, "I'll only be a few minutes." Well, I was about an hour. And eventually the guide comes up and stands next to me, away from me, because he's saying, where the hell is this Englishman gone? He was coming back in a few minutes. And anyway, I get up there, and there's stones up there and stuff like that. And I walk in the middle of them. And I felt this like drill going in the top of my head, and another energy flow coming the other way, 2-way flow. And all this is new to me at the time. And then my arms went out at 45 degrees like that, without me making any conscious decision to do it. And I'm standing under a clear blue, cloudless Peruvian sky on a very hot day, even in our what was our winter time, but it's a very hot day. And then I heard this thought go through my head. They will be talking about this 100 years from now, and then it will be over when you feel the rain. And I'm thinking, talking about what 100 years from now, and what bloody rain, So anyway, this energy starts to build and build and build and build, and my feet are stuck to the ground. And eventually I'm shaking, because this is getting more and more powerful. It lasted probably about 45 minutes, I guess. Time disappeared. There was no time in this period. And, when you drive a car sometimes, and you lose a few miles or something, and you think, you don't remember the last 2 miles or something. Well, your subconscious has been driving the bloody car because you've been daydreaming away somewhere. Well, it was a bit like that. I would go out of this conscious mind level and go into another level. And then I'd come back to conscious mind, and it kept going like that through this period. And one of the times I came back to conscious mind, I saw that over the distant mountains, there was a light gray mist. And I thought, it's raining over those mountains, it's quite a way away. And then it got darker and darker. I think, it's bloody raining over those mountains, And over this period, and it wasn't very long, because the whole thing lasted only about 45 minutes, like I say, this enormous rainstorm came out of the mountains towards me. And if you put it in a movie, they'd say that is absolutely ridiculous, mate. That would never happen, because what happened was a wall of rain came towards me. You know, they talk about weather fronts. This was basically a straight line of stair rod rain, extraordinary amount of rain. And it was coming towards me out of these mountains, and it came across the land, and it came towards me. By the time it's there, I'm shaking like crazy, because this energy is really going through me. And then the rain hit me. I was absolutely sodden in an instant. There was so much rain. And at that point, the energy flow stopped. And I staggered forward. You know, my legs were like jelly. And things changed after that. I went into a period of about 3 months. Well, I came back to England. And I kind of held it together until I got back to England. But then I went into a period of about 3 months, when if you'd have asked me my name, I would have had to look it up.
Wow.
Because it was like you're living in a bubble, and you're not affected by what's outside the bubble. And then someone comes along and bursts the bubble, and suddenly all that pours in. And my mind became deluged with concepts, information, awareness, which was like pressing too many keys on a computer too fast. The computer freezes. Well, I froze basically for 3 months. And in that period, I got enormous ridicule. I went on a talk show and all this stuff. But then after the 3 months, the computer unfroze. And at that point, this is 1991 now, early 1991, I could see the world in a completely different way. And people would come up to me and they'd say, "I thought you'd gone mad, Dave. You seem like the same bloke I always knew." And on the surface, I was, because David came back. But I wasn't the same bloke. I was seeing things I couldn't see before. I was seeing connections I couldn't see before. And that's when it really kicked off into the process that's led to me sitting here now.
Do you think those 3 months you were just receiving downloads? So it's like a computer's downloading. You can't really do anything else but get that download.
Massively so. Yeah, massively so. And I've had other download periods as well. And it's like, not necessarily instantly.
Exactly. Yeah.
Soon afterwards, maybe even a little more than soon afterwards, suddenly great revelations appear to you. It's like that was said through that psychic. He will be led to knowledge, and at other times will put knowledge in his mind. And that's an interesting point, because when I first started out in the early 90s, I would come across information and I would conclude what it meant the situation was. But pretty soon, maybe 18 months, 2 years in, that there was a switch took place, which has gone on to present day, whereby I get what's going on first. And then the information, the names, dates, places, information follows to support the if you like, intuitive level of, I think this is what's going on.
Believing what's real and what's not, and judging it for yourself, right?
Exactly. And what the challenge is for people is when you have these experiences and you get these you get this awareness, you get this information. The question then is, are you going to circulate it?
Yeah. Because
people said to me, when you started talking about this, all this stuff I've been talking about over the years and stuff, didn't you know that people would ridicule you? And I thought, well, funnily enough, I'd worked that out. But you do it anyway. Yeah. And this is the thing. This is why, knowledge is not power. The use of knowledge is power. So the question is, are you going to communicate it knowing the absolute crap you're going to get thrown at you? And my answer was, yes, I am, because, like I say, I came to this conclusion. The worst thing I can do here is to mess up one brief human experience in the forever. So
Right.
I can handle that. So I'm going with it. And I didn't know where it was going. You know, it's like life is like going down a river. You know, you basically see the next turn on the river, and you don't know what's behind it, what's around it. But there's another level of view, an expanded level of view that sees the whole river from source to sea.
Yeah.
And that's what's guiding you.
Bird's eye view.
So you know, I've used this analogy before. You know, you're paddling down the river, and you have an idea. I want to get to so and so before nightfall, and you spring a leak, and you paddle across to the shore, and you're well pissed off, and you're cussing your bad luck and feeling sorry for yourself. And then someone comes along and says, bloody hell, mate, you were lucky. What do you mean I'm lucky? I've sprung a bloody leak. It's, you know what's behind, you know what's around that next turn? It's a bloody ravine. It's a big waterfall. Good job, awesome. You stopped. So there's another level that knows that's there. Another level of you knows that's there. And it's guiding you if you listen to it. And so if you get pulled into the five senses, you lose touch with that. And so what becomes your guide? The information you receive through the five senses, which is controlled by the cult. That's why they want to disconnect us from that higher expanded level of self.
And they really do it with everything. I know you've mentioned Bill Gates a few times, but I feel like even science, you know how you're saying like, oh, it's like, I'm just one little person, I can't do anything. They've tried making this whole experience at like science is like, oh, this earth is just randomly here in a universe and it means nothing and it'll disappear. They've like taken the magic out of everything, I feel like.
Yeah, but you know, they want to isolate us, not just in the five senses, but in every way possible. So they want to isolate us from anything that's out there. And one way of doing it is to convince you there is no out there.
Right, exactly.
You're just a cosmic accident. You exist for a few seconds or 100 years, and then you disappear into oblivion again.
And is that because it's not measurable, or is it because they know and they just want to take that eternal aspect, the eternal aspect of who we are? They want to extract that from us. Or do you think they just don't have the machinery or technology to measure the quality?
It's 100% that they want to take it from us, because we come back to what I said a few minutes ago. Look at two ways of living your life. You think you're a cosmic accident, and when the lights go out, that's it. Or you know that this is just a brief human experience, and you live forever and explore forever. Now, the one is a manipulator's dream.
Right.
One is a manipulator's nightmare. Yeah. So that's why they want to stop us realizing that we are eternal, infinite expressions of consciousness. Ultimately, without form, we're just a state of awareness, a state of being aware. And considering our experiences and our what level we're connected to dictates how aware or unaware we are. And because our experiences are unique, we are a unique point of attention within an infinite flow of consciousness. And so when you're coming from that point of view, you can't be intimidated. There's nothing they can throw at you that will intimidate you, because you know there's nothing to fear.
Right.
Nothing to fear, their worst nightmare. But when you are locked away in believing that your 70 years and 10 is all you are, then, and you fear death because you don't know what it means, you fear the unknown. Death is an expression of fearing the unknown. Then that creates a very different life and a very different perception, which is much more easy to intimidate. And like I say, doctors get their power from the fear of death. That's where it comes from.
Right.
Doctor, make my life longer. Whereas when you're absolutely at peace with death, because you know there is no death, the body has a cycle, we have eternity, then those things do not impact upon you. They don't intimidate you. They don't persuade you to give your power away to others anymore. So it's a completely different perceptual state, therefore a completely different deal for this cult to deal with. That's why they don't want us to know that we are more than our 5 sense labels. They don't want us to know that.
You guys have both brought up psychedelics, ayahuasca, but psychedelics in general. If you think about it, like, look what is censored. Okay, now talking to you finally, you know, I can't they make you like demonize. Like, how can you cancel somebody that's just saying all we have to do is say no? And it's like, or psychedelics. I took mushrooms and was like in love with my life. And they're like, this is against law, but alcohol isn't. It's like, if you're looking for the key, it's normally the thing that's censored. So
Right.
you're like, just talking to you about this, it's so crazy to think like, this is what, like, you're such a peaceful, loving message. You're not saying anything like hateful or.
Yeah, you're not saying we need to go put politicians' heads on stakes.
Yeah, but meanwhile, they're like, we have. I
Just
googled
reasonable.
your name, barely anything comes up. It's like all like disinformation. Like, he's a gatekeeper. It's like, then you go your name, and it's like it's way better. You know what I mean? It's so crazy how much control they have. And don't you feel like you're a big force if they're really trying to stop you like this?
Yeah, well, you see, there are forces at work, which means they can't stop me.
I love that.
What they can do is manipulate the perception of me through other people. I mean, that's the thing.
Manipulation.
But what you learn very early on, if you tap into any level of consciousness, is it doesn't matter what people think of you. It doesn't matter, because they'll think something else tomorrow. I mean, people who were, I went through the most amazing historic levels of ridicule and abuse in the early 1990s.
Absolutely.
And people talk about being offended, but being offended is a choice. All these things are choices. You can choose not to be offended. And so I chose not to be offended. My view is and was that people have a right to their view of me if that's what they want. But I have a right to the view of me and the view of the information that I'm
freedom of speech, you know,
and I'm going to bloody communicate it. And you can abuse me as much as you like. I'm still going to do it. It was my version, actually, when you think about it, of saying no, you're not going to intimidate me. No, you're not going to shut me up. And in the end, you wear them out. I mean, I see, so what's happened? It's kind of funny, really. Over the last 31 years since this started for me, people have come at different points and try to undermine me and try to rubbish me and try to, discredit me.
Yeah.
And then, but I've gone boom, 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 boom. I've simply, okay, we saw you like me, boom, boom. And I've just kept moving. And then they disappear, never to be seen again. And then another group will come up, or another bloke will come up, and they'll try to do the same, boom, 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 and it disappears. And now you've got this lot. I have to laugh. I mean, you're a gatekeeper. I bloody love this. Well, hold on a second. I've been for 30 years exposing these people and saying what's happening now is going to happen. Do you think they wanted me to do that? I mean,
absolutely not.
Honestly, I mean, what do you want if you're a secret network? You want to keep secret what you're doing. You don't want some guy saying this is what's going on. And there's one thing that's absolute classic. I mean, I don't look at this stuff, but people send me things. I literally don't look at this stuff because it just.
I believe it.
But some people are using a picture of me in a Freemason's chair as confirmation that I'm a Freemason. And I'm wearing like a regular street jacket, and this is the story. I was speaking in Boston. Oh, this is way back now. And Boston's a big Freemasonic center. And what I was really focusing on at that time was symbolism. So I'm talking to some people who are involved in the talk in Boston, and they said, "Oh, there's lots of symbols at on the Freemasonic headquarters in Boston, right?" And I thought, well, that's got to be a serious headquarters if it's Boston. because it's all kind of historic, you know, the whole Freemasonry thing out of Boston, and the Tea Party,
yeah.
Freemasonic, you know. Anyway, so we walk, and I'm looking at some of the symbols on the outside, and the door's open, right, in this Freemasons place in Boston, and it was a kind of glass door, as I recall, and it's open. So we walk in and we look around. It's kind of big open hall when you walk in, and over to the left was it seemed to be like a reception desk. There's nobody there. So I thought, well, keep bloody walking then. So we kept walking, and there was all these glass cabinets on the right-hand side of this big entrance hall thing, and all these different things inside. And there was something about Walt Disney in one of them. I remember that very clearly. And the Molay Society, you know the Molay Society that Jack Molay Society that were Clinton was a member of, and
yeah,
Disney was connected to that, it seems, from what I saw in the thing. So we keep walking, and at the end of this hall, there's this stairway. This, you know, well, it's all kind of grand. It's going up. There's still nobody there, right? So we walk up the bloody stairs, still nobody there. It's bizarre. It's like the Mary Celeste. And so we then walk around. The only person we met in the entire period we were in there was a bloke who wasn't a Freemason. He was a builder. Well, he might have been a Freemason, but he didn't dress like a Freemason. He dressed like a bloody builder who was doing some building work. So we walk in down this corridor, and then we walk through this door, and there's one of these big temples, right? And there's the twin pillars and all that stuff. And there was the worship master's chair. So I thought, this is hilarious.
Sit in it. Yeah.
So I'm going to sit in it. And I gave it that, and someone took a picture. And I used it in my talks for about 2 or 3 years. Always got a laugh. And now they're saying, look, this is proof that he's a Freemason. There was another one. I loved it. There was I think they still might be using that one. There's a group of Freemasons, and I'm one of them, right? Because it's got my head on photoshopped.
Oh, nice.
And the funny thing was, I'm about 6 foot. And the guy next to me in the line had to be 6'7" or 8 or 9.
For it to be real.
If I was 6 foot, right?
Yeah.
And then eventually, someone was, you know, casting around the internet, and they found the original picture. And of course, it wasn't me. It was someone else. They photoshopped my head on it. So, you know, this is the point. If you can't debate someone, and they refuse to debate me. I mean, the mainstream media won't touch me. They've been told not to touch me by the government.
They do the opposite.
Yeah. They won't debate me because they know they're going to be in trouble if they do, because of all the information I've got together. So what they do is try to discredit you. And, you know, there are people in the alternative media who think they're in the alternative media, some of which will be there to do this and consciously do it. But a lot of them are just people that just believe anything without question. And so you get this crap, but it's not new to me. You see, this is the whole thing. It's very old.
You're a black belt in this game. You've been in it for like 30 years. You're saying 1990. That's when I was born, and you're like, you know what I mean? Like,
my God, yes.
That's amazing, though.
Yeah, but you know, what you do, it doesn't matter what people say about you. Don't get caught in that. Just keep speaking your truth. And literally those with ears will hear. You know, don't try to persuade people. Just put the information out and let them come to their own conclusions, because it's no good saying you must believe what I say and then talk about, you know, freedom of choice. They have the choice, and they might make choices you don't agree with, but they have the right to make that choice, because that's what freedom is. Freedom is people doing things that you actually don't like, but having the freedom to do it. It's freedom to have an opinion that you don't agree with. That's actually what freedom is. And so, you know, just chill and put the information out, and those who will hear it or are ready to hear it will hear it. And today, there are more people ready to hear it than ever before. It's phenomenal compared with what it's been in the past.
I think that's a beautiful note for us to end on. It must be getting pretty late over in England, right? It must be dinner time over there.
It's starting to get a bit dark. The nights are drawing in.
I'm very, very happy that you came.
You know, the restrictions of COVID get closer, because it's all part of the plan to do that.
And that's how we super get divided, because you have this vaccine, anti-vaccine smash going. Super unfortunate.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a weird time to be a human.
Yeah,
that's for sure.
Exciting, interesting time.
Very
absolutely.
exciting time.
You know what I mean? We could be bankers, couldn't we? I mean, we could be turning up and be a bank teller.
Never.
You know, one time I snuck into Bohemian Grove.
No,
He did.
I did twice, actually. I mean, there was no one there when I went there. It was kind of like your Freemason thing. It was just kind of a campground.
Yeah,
that's
right.
There was like these little obelisks, maybe like 5 feet tall, with owls on top of them. There's the giant owl over past the campground with the little pond in front of it.
Yeah,
it was really interesting. All the different campground names have like little demons dancing on them, and owls everywhere. I mean, hundreds of owl statues all over the ground. Very interesting.
I mean, you've only got to say when you see the footage from Bohemian Grove, the opening ritual, what do they call it?
Oh man, the cremation of care.
Yes.
These are the people running our world.
I know,
Reeves, dude.
They're lunatics.
How bizarre.
Yes. And they say it's just a bunch of sticks. It's like, hey, I'm not there to verify that that's just sticks.
Right.
Psychopaths.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, anyway, David, I really appreciate you and all the work you've done in your life. And I'm very honored to have you a part of my podcast and to be a part of your journey. And I would love to do it again one day.
Yeah, okay.
And it was very nice to meet you on here. Yeah.
Yeah, this is
sorry, you had to do.
This is just like a checklist, you know, off my bucket list.
Cool.
It's an
really
honor
cool
to meet you, man. It really is.
No, it's a pleasure. It's been a great chat, actually. We've gone into some very interesting areas.
Oh, still have a list of questions, so we'll have to do it again for sure. But is there anything you want to, promote your book or anywhere that you want people to head over to and check out?
Well, the main hub is davidicke.com, and we have this media platform now called Iconic, which is like an alternative Netflix, which is put together by my son, nothing to do with me, actually. Wow. And I mean, I do shows for it. I do a Dot Connect, the news show every Saturday morning, which I look at the context of the news rather than just what's happening, why it's happening. But my son's created it. It's an amazing platform now, and I'm doing a live stream on November the 6th. It starts at 11 a.m. in the morning UK time for 6 hours, where it's called Where From Here, which I'm going to go into real deep levels of current events.
And that'll just be on davidicke.com.
Yeah, and into this whole area a lot of the areas that we've talked about Wetiko and what is Wetiko, how's it work. I'm going into that, as well as the name, states, places stuff. And Perceptions of a Renegade Mind has just arrived in the United States and North America, so that can be shipped from North America. You get it in a couple of days. And the reason the book came out in Britain in July and it's just arrived in America is this shipping crisis, shipping container crisis. And I can tell you from experience, the cost of moving things now is going through the bloody roof. And when that plays out as inflation, it's going to be very challenging for a lot of people. All planned, all part of it.
Already is, right?
Yeah.
All right, David, you're the man. I'm stoked for this. So thank you again. And hope you have a good day.
Cheers,
take care. Again. Nice meeting you.
Thanks a lot, brother. Talk to you again.
Bye.
See you.
Bye.
Dun, dun, dun. Okay. Well, there it is.
Wow.
There you go. David Icke.
We did it.
And I have so many questions still.
I know. He's a professional, man. When he gets going, he's
man.
Yeah, that was insane.
We'll have to do another one. Yeah, that was really cool. I'm stoked.
I have so many questions. Like,
I didn't even get past like the first 3, I don't think.
No. And then it's just like make them up as you go. Like the ones I wrote are out the window at that point, And the funny thing is, it's like, I mean, it's David Icke. You can't just be like, hey, you can't.
Great.
Yeah, no, absolutely, man. I really like where that went. It could have went a few different ways, but the fact that we went, like, it really took a spiritual path.
Yeah, I'm glad.
Perfect for the podcast.
Anything else you want to say? I'm going to go grab some lunch.
I'm going to post the other podcast we did, part 2, today. And then, so that'll be, I don't have a YouTube link. YouTube doesn't let you do that though, but I will post it.
The new channel. So it's just like crazy numbers right now, right?
Exactly.
So
but I'll post it somehow.
Yep. It'll be posted on Davey's YouTube. If you want to see a podcast with just me and Davey, The link will be in the description. It'll be his first podcast episode. So go over there and show it some love. And maybe we'll try to get David Icke over there too. And follow.
Will you be putting this up today?
I'm going to try to get it up today. It's 1
right.
o'clock here. I feel like I can probably get it up by 6 p.m. That's 7 your time. Yeah, we'll bust it out.
Yeah, I'll finish uploading that one, and then all right, brother. I love you, man.
Love you too.
I'll see you soon.
Okay, talk to you later.
Bye, everyone.
Peace.
Hey guys, thanks for listening to A Place for Humans podcast. Again, this is Dakota Wint, and please make sure to go over to Apple Podcasts, leave a positive review. Make sure to subscribe over on YouTube, Dakota of Earth, and make sure to also follow us on Spotify. See you next episode.
Place for humans. A place for humans.